Hi, Nelly here, recovering engineeraholic, bachelor's degree in electrical engineering with an outstanding B- average, and I was 5 courses away and a thesis from getting a master's degree from the University of Barcelona in interdisciplinary engineering.
This guy.
Wow, that's a mouthful. No, I will not be attending any more classes. Please stop sending me emails.
Stop it. Get some help.
Okay, that is the Tinder intro flex. It's out of the way. Why does engineering suck so much? Well, I should know, I worked in it for 5 years before throwing in the towel. I worked for companies like Chrysler and Ford and suppliers like ZF. So here are my 5 reasons why you should avoid automotive engineering. Let's start working with the big boys, the Fords, the Chryslers, the GMs, and so on. At the early stages of these jobs, there isn't going to be a lot of work, especially if you're a release engineer like I was. Do you know why? Because the real engineering is happening at a supplier. These big automotive companies are kind of like buying furniture from IKEA and assembling it without the fun or the satisfaction. You will get parts delivered to you from your suppliers, and your task is to babysit every engineer, making sure everything arrives according to spec and agreed upon terms. Now, what if something doesn't work? Well, you'll send a nice email to their engineers and they'll sort it out. Now, am I generalizing hundreds of different engineering jobs? A little bit. There are some testing and systems jobs that can be interesting, but I'm actually okay with this generalization for the most part. To me, working at the big boys is something every engineer should avoid. Maybe I'll make a video on that in another day. Just know you'll be paid well to sit in a cubicle, and your work intake will vary with little real engineering. At times, you're a glorified secretary. Number 2, working at suppliers. Every young engineer should start at a supplier. There you will get incredible insight into highly technical parts of engineering, how a product is made from beginning to end. And if you're lucky enough to have a good mentor who will accept that you've barely learned anything in school, you're gonna be off to a great time. Wow, Nelly, that sounds really awesome. Surely you've made a mistake in putting this on the list. No, unfortunately I haven't. See, the problem is that you'll work crazy hours, probably under an insane amount of stress when things go wrong, and you'll get paid less than you would at the big boys. Remember what I said, if something goes wrong and you work for the big boys, you send an email to a supplier and they have to sort everything out. And here's the thing, oftentimes things will go wrong, and enjoy working weekends. I'll give you a funny story. I was in an interview once with a supplier, and the CEO of the company asked me what I was going to do to make up for some of this technical knowledge I lacked in the interview. And I said, I'll try my best to catch up and listen to senior engineers. Then he said, no, what will you really do? And I said, I'll stay a bit longer every day until I'm caught up. Once again, he looked very puzzled. He said, listen, things are gonna get crazy here pretty soon, so I'll probably need you to work 60 hours a week once in a while. And to that I said, well, define once in a while. Well, only for the first few months during production. Now, just to put things into perspective, I was going to be working 60 hours a week on top of my 10 hours of commuting a week, and best of all, the salary was about 20% lower than the cushy, easy, big boy jobs. It's a hard sell. Number 3, you're sort of stuck in automotive if you pick automotive. This is something most people in automotive will tell you if you're trying to get out. For some reason, pivoting out of automotive is a very difficult venture. I only know a handful of people that have done it successfully. It is a very specific kind of engineering, and as you get more technical, it's harder to pivot into other products or other types of engineering because a lot of what you've learned isn't really transferable. You basically have to start from zero if you decide to pivot. Now, good luck doing that as someone that has 10 years of engineering experience and the big salary that accompanies that. Try going to another company in another sector and asking them to pay you as if you're an engineer with 10 years of experience, when in reality is the skills that you have for this type of engineering might only be worth 1 or 2 years. Number 4, overwhelming bureaucracy. What do I mean by overwhelming bureaucracy? Assembling a car is an extremely difficult process. The amount of engineers required in producing just one car is mind-boggling. Think about every single component in a car. There's usually hundreds of engineers across several companies required for that part to successfully enter and integrate with that car. Now remember, there's hundreds if not thousands of these parts in this car. That means thousands upon thousands of engineers. Now, I'm not saying you'll be working with every single engineer, but even at a small product level, there's an insane amount of people you'll have to deal with. Even for a component like a very simple accelerometer, which is something I used to work on, there's like 50 engineers you should at least be aware of and know their names. testing engineers, software engineers, production engineers, supervisors, the big boy engineers, and the list goes on. The problem with this is that documentation, keeping track of meetings, knowing who to go to, who can answer your questions, becomes rather overwhelming. It takes months just to get to know everyone's names, and automotive companies tend to have a pretty high turnover rate, so don't even bother remembering someone's name unless they put in at least 6 months in that position. I don't even know if I have to mention the nightmares around promotions, people backstabbing you, people sucking up, the corporate ladder system. The rat race is very real and it's very gross in engineering. Lastly, number 5, very little room for creativity. This one kind of goes in hand with the one above. With so many chefs in the kitchen, it's very hard to try new recipes. Everything has been established. Yearly goals are usually to minimize cost or operation times, but in terms of creativity that you might see at a, let's say, automotive show, which keep in mind, only a very few select engineers get the privilege to work on stuff like that, you won't be challenged creatively. Unless, of course, your idea of creativity is a cool new Excel sheet layout or getting really crafty with the spec sheets. The reality is, any big changes that you might want to implement need to be signed off by so many people that it's not even worth to bring it up. I had a friend who had an idea to shift operations to another country, effectively saving the company millions of dollars. And he had everything required to show proof of this concept and its feasibility. He worked on a plan for months, and the higher-ups actually loved it.
But guess what? Guess what? It never happened.
Not because it was an unrealistic idea or because it was a bad idea with lots of flaws, but simply because there's too much politics behind the scenes, unspoken rules, you scratch my back, I scratch your back type stuff that would never allow an idea like this to come to fruition. Alrighty, well, if you're an automotive engineer and you're watching this, let me know what I've missed so other people can find value in it in the comments, or if you completely disagree with me, maybe I'm just an automotive hater. If you're not an automotive engineer, there's still hope for you after all. I'm really glad you watched this video. I hope it has given you some food for thought and that you continue investigating what you really want to do in your life. I switched careers 2 years ago and moved to Spain. If you'd like to know why or how I did it, sub to this channel for updates, and hasta luego.